In 1891, a Canadian gym teacher named Dr. James Naismith invented basketball using a soccer ball and two peach baskets nailed to a gym wall. There was no dribbling, no backboard, and every made shot required a ladder to retrieve the ball. What began as a winter activity sparked a global sports revolution of basketball. It's fast, it's electric, and it's everywhere. From packed NBA arenas in the United States to outdoor courts in the streets of Manila to playgrounds in Paris and Lagos, the sound of a bouncing ball echoes across the globe. What started as a simple gym activity has grown into one of the most popular sports in the world, with over 2 billion fans and a reach that spans nearly every country. The NBA alone broadcasts games in over 200 nations and territories, and international stars like Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic and Joel Embiid are household names. But basketball's influence goes far beyond the court. It shapes music, fashion and social movements. It's in movies, video games and streetwear culture. It gives a voice to communities and inspires millions of kids who dream of going pro. Yet despite its global success, the journey wasn't easy. The game had to overcome resistance, break through social barriers and fight to be taken seriously. So how did a game with peach baskets become a worldwide phenomenon? Let's find out. When basketball was first introduced in 1891 by Dr. James Naismith, it was far from the polished, fast-paced game we know today. It was a simple activity created to keep students occupied indoors during harsh Massachusetts winters. With a soccer ball and two peach baskets nailed 10 feet high, the original game had no dribbling, no shot clock, and no standardized rules. After each basket, the game would pause as someone climbed a ladder to retrieve the ball. It was clunky, awkward, and many questioned if it even qualified as a real sport. The skepticism didn't stop there. In its early years, basketball lacked a centralized authority to regulate rules, which led to wildly different versions of the game being played across schools and regions. One gym might allow dribbling, another might not. Some teams had backboards, others didn't. This inconsistency made it difficult to generate excitement or legitimacy. Critics dismissed it as a fad, a gimmick for physical education, rather than a serious athletic endeavor. In terms of infrastructure, there were major limitations. Basketball was often played in cramped YMCA gyms, school basements and makeshift spaces with poor lighting and no seating for fans. There were no professional leagues, no major sponsors and minimal media coverage. Baseball was America's pastime. Boxing was the premier spectacle, and football was gaining traction. Basketball was barely on the radar, and without exposure or investment, it struggled to grow. Even when the sport did start spreading to colleges and community centers, it encountered pushback from traditionalists. Coaches of established sports didn't want to allocate time, space, or resources to basketball. It was often seen as supplemental, an off-season activity rather than a main event. And without serious competition or widespread fan interest, athletes were hesitant to pursue it long-term. But perhaps one of the most significant early challenges was the issue of inclusion, or more accurately, exclusion. During the first half of the 20th century, basketball reflected the racial and gender segregation of the broader society. African American athletes were systematically excluded from college teams and early professional leagues. While black communities formed their own leagues and barnstorming teams, like the legendary New York Renaissance and Harlem Globetrotters, these groups were often denied mainstream recognition and had to travel tirelessly just to find opponents and audiences. Women too faced steep barriers. While they began playing shortly after the game's invention, they were often restricted to limited rules, small gym spaces, and minimal support. The idea of women's basketball as a legitimate competitive sport was largely dismissed. For decades, their version of the game was altered and watered down, more focused on etiquette than athleticism. Basketball also had a violence problem in its early days. Without clear rules or refereeing standards, games could turn chaotic and overly physical. Fights were common, injuries were frequent. Spectators, if any showed up, saw something closer to a brawl than a coordinated team sport. This reputation hurt its image, keeping it out of the spotlight and away from prestigious athletic programs. The lack of structure extended to players' futures. There was no professional pipeline. Even talented players had nowhere to go after college or amateur leagues. The absence of full-time salaries and media contracts meant that playing basketball was rarely seen as a viable career path. For many, it remained a hobby rather than a dream. Despite these challenges, the passion for the game persisted. Local tournaments began to pop up. Coaches and physical educators refined the rules. Enthusiasts formed teams and traveled across towns and states to compete. But it would take decades and a few game-changing moments for basketball to shake off its rough beginnings and evolve into the sport we recognize today. As basketball pushed through its early struggles, the seeds of transformation began to take root. What was once seen as a crude pastime started to evolve into something bigger, something with structure, strategy, and star power. One of the first major turning points came in 1936, when basketball was officially included in the Olympic Games in Berlin. This marked the sport's arrival on the international stage. Although the game was played outdoors on a dirt court and under rainy skies, it was a symbolic moment. Basketball was no longer just a regional or national hobby. It was becoming a global competition. In the United States, progress continued with the founding of professional leagues. The National Basketball League, NBL, was formed in 1937, primarily made up of teams from industrial towns. A decade later, in 1946, the Basketball Association of America, BAAA, was established. And it quickly began to attract attention by placing teams in major cities and playing in larger arenas. In 1949, the BAA merged with the NBL to form the National Basketball Association, the NBA we know today. This consolidation brought legitimacy, organization, and the promise of a sustainable professional future. It was a massive step forward, but the league was far from the cultural force it would one day become. One key reason for the sport's increasing appeal was the introduction of game-changing rule adjustments. In 1954, the 24-second shot clock was implemented. Before this, teams could hold the ball indefinitely once they had a lead, leading to slow, uneventful games. The shot clock revolutionized the pace of play, forcing teams to move quickly, make decisions, and stay aggressive. The result? A faster, more entertaining product that began to draw larger crowds and spark more excitement. Another monumental change came in 1979 with the introduction of the three-point line. Inspired by its success in the American Basketball Association, ABA, the NBA adopted the rule to stretch the court and increase scoring variety. Though initially underutilized, the three-point shot would later transform the game entirely, becoming the centerpiece of a modern basketball strategy. Speaking of the ABA, it deserves special mention. Founded in 1967, the ABA brought a new flair to the game. Flashy uniforms, a red, white and blue basketball, and a style that emphasized high scoring, creativity, and athleticism. It also served as a proving ground for some of the greatest talents in history, including Julius Dr. J. Irving. The ABA and NBA eventually merged in 1976, infusing the league with a fresh wave of talent and style. As basketball's structure improved, so did its stars. In the 1950s and 60s, players like Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain began dominating headlines. Russell, known for his unmatched defense and leadership, led the Boston Celtics to 11 championships in 13 seasons. Chamberlain, on the other hand, was a statistical marvel, once scoring 100 points in a single game. These men weren't just athletes, they were pioneers who helped define what greatness looked like on the hardwood. The 1980s ushered in the golden age of rivalries. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird revitalized the league with their intense competition, charisma, and team success. Their rivalry, first in college, then in the pros, captured the nation's attention and helped lift the NBA's profile. And then came Michael Jordan. Bursting onto the scene in the mid-1980s, Jordan wasn't just a phenomenal player, he was a global icon. His blend of athleticism, clutch performances, and commercial appeal took basketball into the stratosphere. With 6 championships, 5 MVPs, and countless unforgettable moments, Jordan made the NBA must-see entertainment. His partnership with Nike also changed the marketing landscape forever, as Air Jordans became both cultural symbols and fashion statements. During this period, the Dream Team took basketball global. In the 1992 Olympics, NBA players were allowed to compete for the first time. and the United States sent a roster stacked with legends: Jordan, Magic, Bird, Barkley, and more. They dominated the competition and brought basketball to an entirely new global audience. Kids from Argentina to China to Lithuania watched in awe. The game's influence exploded overseas, and a new generation of international stars began to emerge. Throughout the late 1990s and early 2000s, players like Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, Shaquille O'Neal, and Tim Duncan carried the torch. Each brought something unique: Kobe's work ethic and killer instinct, Iverson's raw intensity and cultural influence, Shaq's dominance and charisma, Duncan's quiet excellence. These icons helped transition the league into the 21st century and kept it at the forefront of global sports. Meanwhile, the WNBA launched in 1997, giving elite female athletes a long-overdue professional platform. Legends like Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops, Diana Taurasi, and Sue Bird have made the league a force in its own right, inspiring millions and pushing the conversation around gender equality in sports. Off the court, basketball began intertwining with pop culture in unprecedented ways. From rap lyrics to blockbuster movies, from sneaker culture to social media, basketball was everywhere. Players became brands, games became events, highlights went viral. The sport had fully stepped into the global spotlight, and it hasn't slowed down. In today's era, players like LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Nikola Jokic are redefining the game yet again. LeBron blends longevity and leadership. Steph has transformed how we think about range and shooting. Giannis brings international power and passion, while Jokic showcases finesse and IQ as a big man. Rule changes continue to evolve the game, from replay reviews to load management policies. Analytics have also revolutionized decision-making. Teams now prioritize spacing, shot selection, and efficiency in ways unthinkable just a decade ago. From its messy beginnings in a YMCA gym to a multi-billion-dollar global industry, basketball's development has been shaped by visionaries, trailblazers, innovators, and fans. Every era has added a new layer to the game's identity, one built on passion, resilience, and the belief that a simple ball and hoop can change the world. One of the most pivotal moments in basketball history, and arguably in sports overall, came with the integration of the NBA in the late 1940s and early 1950s. Before this period, professional basketball was segregated, reflecting the broader racial divides in American society. Black players were barred from competing in the NBA and other major leagues, relegated instead to all-black teams and barnstorming squads like the Harlem Globetrotters and the New York Renaissance. But change was on the horizon. In 1946, the NBA's predecessor, the Basketball Association of America, was formed without any black players. This all-white league mirrored a country deeply divided by race and inequality. Yet, as the civil rights movement gained momentum and pressure mounted to end segregation in sports, the NBA began to shift. The groundbreaking moment came in 1950, when Chuck Cooper became the first African-American player drafted by an NBA team, the Boston Celtics. Shortly after, Nat Sweetwater Clifton signed with the New York Knicks, and Earl Lloyd debuted as the first black player to actually play in an NBA game. These men weren't just athletes, they were pioneers breaking barriers and challenging a deeply entrenched system. Their entry into the league was far from easy. They faced hostility from fans, teammates, and even opponents. Some arenas wouldn't allow black players to stay in the same hotels or eat in the same restaurants as white players. Racism was rampant, both overt and subtle. Yet these players persevered with incredible resilience and dignity, proving that talent and character know no color. The integration of the NBA changed the game in profound ways. Black players brought new styles of play, speed, creativity, and toughness that enriched the sport and made it more exciting to watch. Players like Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, and later Oscar Robertson redefined what it meant to be dominant on the court. Their success paved the way for future generations of athletes and helped transform basketball into a truly inclusive sport. This integration was about more than just sports. It was part of the broader struggle for civil rights and equality in America. The NBA became a stage where issues of race, justice, and social change played out in very public ways. As black players excelled and became superstars, they challenged stereotypes and broke down racial barriers, inspiring fans and young athletes worldwide. The ripple effects extended globally. As the NBA grew in stature, it became a symbol of progress and possibility, attracting international players who saw basketball as a path to success, regardless of their background. The league's diversity today is a direct legacy of those first brave black pioneers. Another key moment that helped basketball's global spread, and arguably its next big leap, came with the 1992 Olympic Games in Barcelona. For the first time, professional NBA players were allowed to compete, forming what became known as the Dream Team. Featuring legends like Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Charles Barkley, and Patrick Ewing, the team dominated the competition, winning gold with ease. The Dream Team's impact was immense. They brought a level of skill, athleticism, and showmanship never before seen on the Olympic stage. Their games were televised worldwide, introducing basketball to millions of new fans and igniting passion for the sport in countries far beyond the United States. Following the Dream Team's success, international players flooded into the NBA, bringing their own styles and stories. Stars like Dirk Nowitzki from Germany, Manu Ginobili from Argentina, and Yao Ming from China helped globalize the league, expanding its reach into new markets and cultures. Together, these moments, the integration of the NBA and the global explosion sparked by the Olympics, transformed basketball from a national pastime into a worldwide phenomenon. They symbolize the power of sport to break down barriers, unite people, and inspire change. These pivotal moments remind us that basketball is more than a game. It's a reflection of society's progress and a beacon for future generations. From its humble beginnings in a gym with just a peach basket, basketball has evolved into a global phenomenon that captivates billions. What started as a simple way to keep students active has grown into a sport that transcends borders, cultures, and generations. Through perseverance, innovation, and the courage of trailblazers, basketball broke barriers, racial, social, and geographic, and united communities worldwide. The game's impact extends beyond the court, influencing music, fashion, and social movements. With iconic players, evolving rules, and a passionate fan base, basketball continues to inspire dreams and connect people across the globe. Its legacy is a testament to how a simple idea can transform lives and create a lasting cultural force that will keep growing for generations to come. Thank you for watching. We'd love to hear from you. What's your all-time favorite basketball moment or player? Comment below and let's get the conversation started. Also, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next exciting video where we'll explore the greatest basketball players in history and their incredible legacies. Stay tuned.